Hi, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and I'm so excited today to talk about my favorite mechanisms in the new game from Stonemaier Games, Apiary. This is from designer Connie Vogelman and illustrator Kwanchai Maria. And there's a lot that I love about this game. I'm so excited to share this game with you and to have this advanced copy so I can play the final version of the game myself, or the final printed version of the game. I won't describe entirely how the game works here, but it is a worker placement game with a tile placement element and an engine building element to it as well. The theme is that you are highly intelligent, advanced bees that have evolved well past where bees currently are in the real world, and they have taken to space. They're spacefaring bees. They're kind of post-humanity, highly intelligent, highly advanced, technologically advanced spacefaring bees. So it is a space game, but with bees as the core element. And every element of the game is designed around this. In fact, it started out just as a bee theme, and then we slowly added this sci-fi space element to the game. Each player is going to have an asymmetric pairing. So they're going to have an asymmetric mat here that represents their ship. And you can see that these mats have a bunch of different bonuses and shapes on them. So you have this different tile placement puzzle on them, kind of like Arc Nova. Arc Nova was a small inspiration for this mechanism, where you gain bonuses as you cover different slots on these mats with tiles. And you combine this, so this is your ship, you combine it with one of 20 different faction mats, or faction tiles. So you have these faction tiles here, all of which have the ability to upgrade them. So you can, there's a way in the game that you can actually upgrade to the other side of these tiles. Let me jump into the favorite mechanisms here. So that's kind of what you're starting with the game at the beginning of the game, and then you are branching out from there, doing one of 6 actions on your turn, or retrieving workers. So it's a worker placement game where you're placing one worker on the board, or you're retrieving any number of workers that are already placed on the board. And the workers look like this. So these are essentially 4-sided workers. They're not dice. They're workers that level up in strength as you play. So here's the 5 workers right here, 5 different colors. Each player has up to 4 of these workers. So there's 1, 2, or I'll go the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they level up in strength. And when you place a worker on the board, depending on their strength, they gain a different amount of a different level of benefit based on the number on that worker. So for example, an example of this is drawing seed cards in the game. So if you go to the research action, you can place a worker. So if I place a 2-value worker there, then I would draw 2 seed cards from the deck, look at them, pick one, and discard the other. So you're always gaining only 1 card, but you have more information. So it makes the ability or the action slightly better, depending on which number you place. So if I place a 3-value worker, I'm going to draw 3 cards. Still only get to pick one, but I get more information. I get to select from 3 different cards. And all the actions have elements like that, where the worker you place impacts the level of benefit of the action. And sometimes even on certain actions, the numbers add up with other workers that are there. So for example, for the explore action, if there's already a worker here, say that worker has 2 strength on it, then I'm actually adding these 2 together to determine how far the queenship can move on the explore action. When you do the explore action, you have a shared queenship that represents kind of the queen of the colony here, the bee colony. And so if I have a 2 and I place a 1 here, I get to move the queenship up to 3 spaces to explore a planet or visit a planet that we've already explored. So the numbers on these workers really matter. And this is combined with a bumping mechanism where you're never really blocked in this game. So if I have this worker is on the board and I really want to go on that action space, I can bump that worker off the space, placing my worker there. So I have access to the space. But what I've done there is that I have saved this player a retrieve turn. They have then gained this worker back, and they don't have to take a retrieve turn to gain that worker back to use it again. So I've given them a retrieve turn. I've also increased their strength. So I've actually made their worker better. So if it was a 2, when it gets bumped back to you or when you retrieve a worker, it increases in strength up to 3, which is good. I've increased or good for them. I've increased their strength. I've given them a worker back. However, I've also sped up when this worker will have to go hibernate, because when a level 4 worker is bumped, it must hibernate right away. That worker goes and hibernates for the rest of the game. Not this worker itself. There's a separate token to use for that. So even though it is largely good for the player who's being bumped, you are pushing that worker away and speeding up the time to when that player must go probably create more workers. So I love this bumping mechanism. I love how flexible it is. I love the level of interaction with the bumping mechanism. Really, really love that. And tied to that, I'm talking about the strength 4, the level 4 of these workers, strength 4. This might be my favorite mechanism in the game because with each of the 6 actions on the board, there is a special benefit that you gain when you place a level 4 worker. So I used that seed card example earlier. In that example, I place the worker. I still gain the core benefit, which is I draw 4 cards, I keep 1. But on each of these actions, there's also a special benefit that you gain when you place that level 4 worker. In fact, there's even one action, the carve action, where you can only place level 4 workers there. But most of them are more flexible. This is one of my favorites, the convert action. So with convert, if I place a level 4 worker, ultimately I'm going to use this worker to convert some resources to other things. So I'll convert them to other things. That's great. But with level 4 worker here, I get to teach a dance. Bees do this thing called a waggle dance, where they are essentially creating instructions for other bees to follow. And we use that in this game where I get to place, there's going to be a tile here, but I get to define what's on these tiles. I get to create a conversion of my own. This is the dance that I'm teaching other players at this table, other competitors in this bee colony. So I get this special ability when I place this level 4. It feels really good in this game to place a level 4 worker, strength 4 worker. So we really leaned into that with each of the actions on the board. Couple other mechanisms I want to mention here. One, I love, in addition to that dance action, I really also love the explore action because we did something a little bit different here with exploration. When you're playing Apiary, this board is seeded with face down square tiles, as you can see here, they're square tiles, and face up exploration tokens. So whenever you move the queen ship around to a new planet, you know you're going to gain what's on that exploration token. It's face up, you know you're gaining that. What you don't know is what's on the planet beneath it. And those planets look like this. Here's a few of them here. So the planets look like this. And what these are saying is that when you arrive at the planet, by default, this planet produces water, this planet produces pollen. That's by default what these planets produce. But the amazing thing about bees is that they tend to make the ecosystem around them better. They're pollinating, they're improving the ecosystem. So instead of going with kind of the traditional space game thing where you go and exploit a planet, instead, when you explore in Apiary, you're actually making these planets better. When you arrive here, so whether you're arriving for the first time or at any time in the game, say, I'll use this as an example. When I arrive at this planet, the first thing I do is that I take a basic resource from the supply and I put it on one of these little squares here, and it remains there for the rest of the game. It's as if you've put a new icon on this planet. And then, after I've done that, I gain those resources. I gain water, and I gain that resource right there. And any other player who visits this planet later, they'll do the same until they filled up these squares. So by the end of the second visit, this planet has gone from producing 1 water to producing 3 different things because we're bees. We're making this planet better. I love this thematically, and I also really, really love this mechanically that you're making this planet better in that way. And I mentioned the level 4 workers. Some of the planets even have a level 4 benefit. So if I've used a level 4 or strength 4 worker to end up exploring this planet, I gain a benefit here. This one says teach 1 dance and use it twice. That's super powerful. That's a nice one right there. So I love what those level 4 benefits do. 2 other little subtle things I wanted to mention, or really just one thing that's tied to 2 different mechanisms, is the element of Queen's favor in this game. So we have this element of the Queen ship itself, which is moving around exploring planets. But in Apiary, there are limitations as to how many things you can hold in your ship. So you can see here, and it's pretty good capacity. These are all the different resources that you can hold by default, even just with your default starting faction tile. A lot of different resources here that you can hold. But there might be times in the game, because the game is plentiful in giving you resources, there might be times where you have too many and you can't hold a resource that you just gained. At the end of your turn, we realized that rather than just having players lose that resource due to this capacity limit, we could turn that into something that feels good. And so if you have too many resources in Apiary at the end of your turn, too many that you can't hold, then you can, or you must, discard the extra resources, and you move up this Queen's Favor track. And so the farther you move up the track, the more points that you get at the end of the game. So it's essentially you're saying, I have too much here for my ship, my hive. I'm going to donate it to the Queen. I'm going to give this thing to the Queen so the Queen can thrive. And so you give up those resources and you move up the Queen's Favor track. You are earning favor. So I think this is a neat little twist on capacity limits in games, that there's actually a legitimate strategy in Apiary of going above your capacity so that you can donate, because you can't just choose to donate. You must go over your capacity of holding resources to be able to donate to the Queen. Those are just a little taste of my favorite mechanisms in Apiary, but they are some of my favorites. Yeah, I'm so excited about this game, so excited for you to get to play it in the near future. The launch date on our web store is October 4th, 2023, if you're watching this in the future, and we will be shipping the game throughout October, and also we'll have some copies at SM Spiel in case you'll be there. So yeah, that's Apiary. Let me know if you have any questions or if you can relate any of these mechanisms to other games that you've played in the comments below. Thanks.